Hi, Rip. Just over 3 weeks ago, I ruptured my Achilles tendon and had it surgically repaired using the pars arthrex technique. Rupture was on Saturday, and the surgery was the following Wednesday. As a novice, I had only been doing the starting strength program 6 weeks prior to the injury and was thoroughly enjoying it, happy with progress. Great to finally be training instead of exercising. I'm somewhat dismayed at the doctor and physio suggested time frame for recovery. I'm hoping you have some experience working with this injury to be able to advise a better way forward. My questions are: recommendation for training, continue starting strength. Okay, here's the deal. Adam is writing this. I had this injury a little over 10 years ago myself. It was probably right about this time. I remember it was warm that day, so it was at least April of 2010 when I did mine. My surgery was about a week later. I had a travel commitment and I couldn't get in till about a week later. My surgeon he didn't use the pars arthrex technique, which is a kind of just been recently developed. It's kind of a jig they attach to the structure and use that to guide the repair. He just put he asked me, said, "What do you want? Cosmetic perfection here, or you want a strong repair?" And I told him, "I want the strongest repair I can get. I want you to put as much suture in the thing as you can get in it. I don't care what it looks like." He said, "Well, it's going to be bumpy." I said, "Do I look like bumps are going to bother me?" And he said, "Well, you have a good point." So, and I also told him, and he knew from a couple of previous episodes, how I was going to rehab the thing. So he put a bunch of suture in it, and he sent me home. And you're supposed to leave the thing in plantar flexion for something like 4 weeks while this thing thoroughly knits together and all this kind of thing. And needless to say, I didn't do that. I took the plantar flexion heel blocks out when I got down to the car after the 1 week checkup and was in normal dorsiflexion at that point. And started training on it immediately. In other words, within 7 days after the surgery, I was training on it. Now, when I say I was training on it, what I was doing was I believe I started off with rack pulls, just standing on without any movement of the ankle, and started doing some pulls. Now, the pulls were rather light. I was working range of motion, but I wasn't working the range of motion in the injured ankle. I was just tightening it. I was just subjecting it to some normal stress. I was very careful about walking on it, although I did walk on it. I'll have to tell you, I walked on it. Within 2 weeks after the surgery, I was walking on the thing. Hobbling. I wasn't running or anything stupid like that. But it has been my experience from all of the orthopedic surgeries I have had that doctors will always tell you to be more conservative with it than is necessary. And this conservative approach considerably slows down the process of rehab. Now, I understand why they don't want you undoing their surgery. All right, I understand that completely. But I also understand that it's your leg, not his. And while you're not going to do anything stupid, and by that I mean you don't power clean for a year. While you're not going to do anything stupid, you have to cause the injury to heal. In every case, you must stress an injury so that the injured tissue receives enough signal that the remodeling process can actually happen at an effective rate. If you immobilize a fracture, for example, the fracture won't heal. They used to put people with broken femurs in traction in the hospital for a month, and then they'd find out after a month of traction that no healing had taken place across the fracture plane. This is because the osteoblasts on either side of the fracture line don't know a fracture is there unless, because they're stupid, they're just cells. What do you want? Sociology majors, they're just cells. They can't, they're not real intelligent. So the signaling mechanism across the fracture plane tells the cells that a repair needs to be done, and that's the cell signaling mechanism that causes the remodeling process to take place. The same thing happens in every injury. The movement that is normal to that structure must at some level be restored to it, or healing cannot take place. Now, so what I'm telling you is to go against medical advice, because I think in this particular case, medical advice is covering your ass instead of good medical advice. I'm telling you to do something your doctors told you not to do. Now, you can do that if you want to. I'm also telling you don't be stupid. All right? Pain is a very reliable indicator. But if there's not some discomfort, then there's not enough stress to force the adaptation. And in this case, the stress recovery adaptation cycle is also working, just like it does in the starting strength program you were enjoying prior to this injury. All right, stress recovery adaptation is how the adaptation occurs. And in this case, the adaptation is the whole healed up tendon. Stress must be applied to it or it won't heal. You can't apply so much stress to it. This is a very delicate process. You can't apply so much stress to it that the repair is damaged. But if you apply no stress to it, like they want you to do, then the healing takes maybe 3 times longer than it would under other circumstances. All right? Look at it like this. 30,000 years ago, you rupture your Achilles tendon. You're an old guy. You're 35, right? You jump down off of a cliff, and one of your feet lands on a rock under the ball of your foot. And the heel drops, and the Achilles tendon ruptures. And it's 30,000 years ago, and the orthopedic surgeon isn't available this weekend. What do? Do you get eaten by the hyenas? Because they'll be happy to help you. Or do you move? I'll bet you move. Now, you're not going to be able to walk on it, but you are going to move. And in the process of walking on it as best you're able, some stress is applied to the structure. And eventually the damn thing heals, because if it didn't heal under the circumstances of movement, then we wouldn't be here. We would have all been eaten by the hyenas. Right? Now, some injuries are fatal. I understand that. But an Achilles tendon rupture is not one of them. Right? You break your pelvis falling off of that same cliff, you're going to be eaten by the hyenas. All right? But if you do not take some of the responsibility for yourself for applying measured, appropriate stress to the injury, you are going to take a lot longer to rehab, and your rehab is going to be a lot less complete than it would be had you gone ahead and very carefully stressed the situation over time using your brain. Okay?